Non-polynomial functions take up another 20% of the EOC. And these questions could come from a variety of different places. They could come from just equations that are not polynomial form. They come from trig functions, mostly trig functions actually, and then also maybe a little bit of logarithms, but most of that can be done on the calculator. So I'm going to take you through 5 questions. All of them are a little bit different so that you can see a way to answer the questions before you do the next 15 problems. So number 1 says, Mr. Johnson bought a conical camping tent for his 2 daughters. The radius of the circular base of the tent measures 4.5 feet. So that's going to stand for this R over here. And the tent's lateral surface area is 110.6 feet squared. Use the formula S equals pi R square root R squared plus H squared, where S is the lateral surface area, which is this number here, so we're going to go ahead and put that over here. Pi is a constant, radius is 4.5, square root 4.5 squared, and R is the radius. To find the height, H, to the nearest tenth of a foot. So, this is our height. So basically, we're trying to figure out what can we put in here to give us 110.6. Well, the easiest way to do that problem is to just play the guess and check game. So, we're going to do pi. We're going to do 4.5. Those aren't going to change. We're going to do square root. We're going to do 4.5 squared plus, and then we're just going to start with answer A and plug it in. So A is 3.3. So we're going to do parentheses 3.3 squared. And if we get 110.6, we're done. We don't. So we're just going to arrow up, hit enter, and change that 3.3 to 6.3 and see what happens. So 6.3 we get. 109.6. Pretty close, but you do notice that 6.4 is the next answer. So let's see what happens when we type in 6.4. 6.4 we get 110.6, 110.6. So our answer has to be answer C. So in that question, when they give you a formula, read through it and put the numbers in, and then just kind of play the matching game. Put the numbers in, see what you can get. So questions like that might be ones that you think to skip, but just look through it quickly and see if they give you everything you need, and then just plug in the number. A lot of times it's a great idea to use the answers to work backwards, especially on a multiple choice test. Alright, number 2. Where do the minimum values of y equals sine x occur from negative 2 pi to 2 pi? Alright, well, 2 pi is one normal circle. So if you remember, say we talk about degrees, for 360, that normally sine starts at 0, goes up to 1, back to 0, down to negative 1, and back to 0. So it goes up, down, and up. Well, minimum value would be the low here. So the minimum value for normal circle happens at 270. Now 270 times pi over 180 is, a lot of you already know this answer, but it is 3 pi over 2. So it's occurring at 3 pi over 2. And therefore, it can't be at B. So there's a 3 pi over 2. It can't be at C, and it can't be at D. So it's going to have to be the answer A. It's really all you need to know. I will tell you, though, if we go backwards, it's going to be negative 90, it's going to hit down again. So it's got to go up and down. Well, negative 90 times pi over 180 would give you negative pi over 2. So that's why the answer is 3 pi over 2 and negative pi over 2. Remember, you can do this in degrees if you want. Easy to remember in degrees, and then work your way backwards to radians. Number 3, we have not covered logarithms at all. However, the very few logarithms that should show up you can do on your calculator. So please remember, under alpha window, you have a log base key. And you can actually do quite a bit with that log base key. So when you have alpha window on your screen and you do number 5, I think it's 5 on yours also, we're just going to plug in and play the matching game again. So we have a little 2 and we're just going to start with answer A. So A is 1 over 9. The question is, does that equal negative 3? And that answer is no, and it's got to be negative 3. And then we try 1/8 for answer B, and there is negative B, or negative 3. So the answer is B. So if they do ask you a log question, a lot of times you can just use this log base. Do remember, just the regular log key, this guy down here, this log key actually means that you have a base of 10. So it would look like just plain old log for that key, or if they write log with a little base 10, but it's not a base of 1. So the very few questions on logarithms that you should get should be ones you should put in the calculator. If not, they'll just be ones that you'll have to pass on. Number 4 is rewrite this expression in simplest form. Assume variables represent positive numbers, which just means that no i's or anything. So you kind of have a couple of choices on how you do this. First thing, if you look at the letters, that'd actually be a pretty easy thing to do. W squared is going to have to come out as W to the first. If you remember, there's a little 2 here. Y to the third is going to have to come out with one Y and then a Y going to be stuck back inside. And on the bottom, you have X to the 6th, so that's going to come out as X to the third. And with that answer, you might be able to eliminate a few options. I apologize, that's actually an X to the 5th right there. So that would come out as an X squared and an X stuck back inside. So in the case of this problem right now, really you could pick the answer just on these letters. Can't be A because we don't have a W and a Y, so it can't be that. Answer B has a W and a Y. This X will come up here with this Y, which is why we have an XY. Let's look at C. That would be a W and a Y squared. Well, we don't have a W and a Y squared, so it can't be that answer. And answer D is a W and a Y squared. Well, we don't have a W and a Y squared. So the answer has to be just based on this W and this Y. Another option is to pick a number for W, let's say 2. Pick a number for Y, let's say 3. And pick a number for X, let's say 4. And plug them in and see what you get. So if you do that, we would get square root. And then I would probably do the alpha y equals fraction key. 16 and W is 2, so 16 times 2 squared times y I picked 3 to the third. And then on the bottom we're going to put 75 times x I picked 4, so 4 to the 5th. And I get this answer of 3 over 20. And then I'm going to put in the answers. Well, I already know the answer is B, but let's go ahead and do that. So it's going to be 4 times W, 2 times Y, 3, square root, 3 times X, 4 times 3, Y. And on the bottom it's 15 times X, so it's 4 to the third. 3 over 20, 3 over 20, and they match. So again, pick numbers, plug them in, or simplify the letters, see if you can get that matches. Last problem has an angle A in standard positioning circle, has its terminal side in quadrant 3, which means your answer is over here in this quadrant. If tangent of A is 4/3, what is sine of A? Well, I'm going to give you kind of a backwards way to do this problem. The only thing you need to know is if it's in quadrant 3, the answer is negative there. Because to get into quadrant 3, it's negative x and negative y. So the answer has to be negative in quadrant 3. So A or B is your answer. Easiest way to do this is to make sure your calculator is in degree mode. And we're going to do solve for A. So second tangent, 4/3 solves for A. We've done that before. And we get 53.1. So A is 53.1. Well, one of these is the answer. So sine. So we're going to do second sine, negative 3/5. And we get negative 0.01. Oh, sorry. Second sine, negative 3/5. We get negative 36 degrees. Let's do second sine, negative 4/5. And we get negative 53 degrees, and that actually matches that 53.1 degrees. So our answer is B. It's the same angle in the third quadrant as it is in the first quadrant. So it's a 53 degree in the first quadrant and a 53 degree in the third quadrant. So you can just use the second sine key like we did the second tangent key. The only thing is in quadrant 3, sine is negative and cosine is negative. Sine and cosine are both negative. It goes backwards. Cosine and sine, negative. In quadrant 2, it's negative and positive, so cosine is negative and sine is positive. And in quadrant 4, it's positive and negative, so cosine is positive and sine is negative. And in quadrant 1, they're both positive. And finally, to finish this up, in 6, there's one more on non-polynomials. Now in this section, the questions are going to be all different types because they're just kind of problems that fall into this category are just kind of different. So you're going to see a variety of them. But this is your code for the last 15 questions. 15 more questions. These are on non-polynomial. Polynomial. Sorry. For you to do. Go ahead and write that code down and then you can work.